Hey there, guys. My name is Brandon, aka Suns Geek, and if it has to deal with the Phoenix Suns, I'm going to make a video about it. Today, I am joined by special guests, the Valley Podcast. We have Gabe from the Valley Podcast. Gabe, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having us.
Of course. Thank you guys for being on. And we also got Evan. Evan, how you doing today, man?
Rip. Can
He's
you guys
muted.
Technical difficulties already.
There
we go. No, it's good. It's good to be on with the GOAT finally. How you doing?
Thank you for asking, man.
He's the audio engineer. He's literally an audio engineer. Go ahead.
All good, man. Thank you guys for being on. And we are also joined by Mr. 10,000 subscribers on his gaming channel, Salty. Salty, how you doing, man?
Hey, what's up, man? You can call me Mr. Podcast because I just got done podcasting. I was watching the Suns. I had it on mute, and we're doing another podcast. I'm sure my wife appreciates that, but it's good to be on, man.
Thank you guys so much for being on. We are joined with the Valley Podcast today to talk about the Phoenix Suns and the New Orleans Pelicans. So make sure to go check out the Valley Podcast. The link is down below in the description. You guys, this was a weird game. We got lots to talk about here. 132-114 is your final. I'll be real with you guys. It didn't seem like the Suns are going to win this game. No. I feel like the start of the game was kind of weird. I feel like there was a lot of weird rhythm to this game. It kind of had a weird flow. I feel like both teams were kind of playing sloppy. I'll start with you, Gabe, and then we'll kind of just go around. Gabe, what did you think of this game? Like, what are your thoughts?
So, is my audio working?
Yeah, I can hear you.
So here's the thing, man. This Pelicans team isn't scared of us.
Right.
And they're kind of like built like we used to be. We used to just be young, didn't know what we didn't know, and we would just go toe-to-toe with people, but we couldn't finish it out, you know? Right. But then the bottom line is Chris Paul orchestrated fourth quarter playoff basketball for the Phoenix Suns. And that's what won us the game. The whole first three quarters was terrible for the most part for us, other than Frank Kaminsky. But Chris Paul showed us what playoff basketball is going to look like. And it's going to look every possession counts.
Exactly.
And that's why we won.
Exactly. Evan, what are your thoughts about tonight's game? Because, I mean, Gabe summed it up perfectly, but everyone has an opinion.
It's kind of a weird matchup for us. Just going into it, we blew them out when we played in Phoenix by like 30 plus points, right? Maybe it was 28 or something. And then they blew us up by 24. The lead was a lot larger by the time we pulled our stars that game. And then going into this game after the Brooklyn loss, I was really, really worried about this game. And then all of a sudden it's tooth and nail. They go up 7, we go up by 7. And then Brandon Ingram gets hot in the end of the first quarter going into the second. And hits that miracle 3 to end the first half. And it just seemed like everything was going against us. And the thing that New Orleans does against us very well is their length really bothered us. Yeah. And if we weren't hitting our threes, we weren't going to win that game. And all of a sudden, everything just worked. Everything. In the fourth quarter, it was 41-12 scoring in the fourth quarter.
Absolutely.
Everything went right. And who knew that would have happened? It's exactly what happened to us against the Nets. So a win is a win. There isn't an ugly win at the end of the day because the record just shows a dub, and that's what it's all about. So it's a good win. Go Suns.
Exactly. Well said. Well done. Salty, my man, what did you think? Because, again, we have a lot to talk about. I'm normally very optimistic on here, but I'm going to point out a few things and get you guys' opinion. Salty, what'd you think, man?
So, first of all, I'm going to point out that this game put me to sleep. I'm not going to lie. It's been a long day.
It was first 3 quarters.
Yeah. It was one of those games where it's just kind of slow or whatever was happening.
Weird flow.
It was a weird flow. And typically in the NBA, there's matchup issues with certain teams. It doesn't matter what their record is. And I'm not sure what it is about the Pelicans, that it seems to be a matchup problem with the Suns. But this was a revenge game over, you know what I'm saying? So that we blew them out the first game, then they blew us out. So I was expecting a Suns W, even though I wouldn't say it because I'm kind of on the trend of calling an L and they get a W. But I think the difference maker was DeAndre Ayton guarding what's his name, Zion. I think that was money because you put a taller guy on him that matches him weight wise. Even though he got his points, it still was an issue for him. And then Walmart version of Kevin Kevin Durant, Brandon Ingram, he went off kind of. He is an issue, and then Lonzo Ball kind of filled it up, which he normally doesn't do because he's been struggling this year, and his team if you look at the forums, man, they really want to trade Lonzo, man. They're not a fan of him, and I just think that we turned it on in the fourth quarter. Chris Paul went into playoff mode like he did with the Nets. Unfortunately, we didn't pull out the W that time, but he just has this clutch factor to him, this alpha dog factor to him, this Kobe Bryant clutch mentality. When it's in the fourth quarter, he's no other player on the Suns I'd rather have the ball, even with Booker, than Chris Paul, because he just knows how to win, so.
Well, you guys, that's the live stream. I have nothing else to say because you all three just summed it up perfectly. No, that was really well done by all three of you. It's funny that you mentioned Lonzo, because if Lonzo played like this each and every single night, he would be one of the best point guards in the league. I'm actually a big fan of Lonzo, but it does seem like he's always in trade rumors. I feel like this game was full of runs. I mean, especially in the first three quarters, this game was full of runs. I'm going to say that like 50 times. The Suns, again, the energy was really weird. I guess my next question is, what is with the Suns' low free throw shooting numbers? Let me look at tonight. I have the box score pulled up right here. I feel like the Suns aren't really getting to the free throw line that much. Tonight, they were 8 for 12 from the free throw line. Let's start with Salty. What do you think is the Suns' problem in terms of getting to the free throw line?
I think it's the composition of the team, and it's the way the team was constructed by our general manager. He constructed a lineup that was surrounding Deandre Ayton with shooters, and it was, predicated on Deandre Ayton being a post scorer, which he's not really. And unfortunately, it was very lopsided in players that are able to get to the basket. We saw that in the beginning of the year where we're putting up, at one point, we put up like 50 threes or something like that, relying heavily on the jump shot. You live by it, you die by it. Very lopsided construction of the team. And unfortunately, there's not many answers to that, because if you look at our starting lineups or you look at the bench, it's just not a lot of players that create their own shots or even get to the rim consistently. And not only that, it's making contact and the ability to get to the free throw line consistently. You look at Booker, he drives to the basket a lot, but I don't think he's a person that draws a lot of fouls. I don't know what he averages, but if you look like Harden or a Doncic, their ability to draw free throws is just crazy, right? Yeah. So I think it's the construction of the team, unfortunately. I think James Jones loves shooters. You can see that in his drafts with his draft picks. He wants people that can shoot, and that's awesome, but you also have to have a balance there, so I think that's the problem.
Well done. Evan, we were kind of talking about that over Twitter a little bit. Do you have any thoughts about that? I think that kind of sums it up right there, but what do you think is the issue?
That sums it up, but you couple it along with the stat I'm about to give you. Suns are last in the league in free throw attempts. Ooh. They're last in the league. But Suns opponents have the fourth least amount of fouls committed against the Suns. So that's the other team committing fouls when we play them. We have the fourth least amount. Now you go back to us, and we're 9th in the league 19th in the league in committing fouls. It was either 19 or 17. Let me go back. We're 9th in the league in committing fouls. Mm-hmm. So there's something going on where it's this David Stern stuff back to the Phoenix Suns days, where we're not getting fouls our way at all. I mean, the proof is in the pudding right there. They're not calling fouls against us as well too. So I mean, if we got 4 more fouls a game with, we'll say that's 4 to 5 average free throws, that jumps from last to middle tier. But that's an extra 5 free throws for a team that shot 83 or 84% last year, the best ever, or 85%. That's what
I was going to say. Yeah, we were like the best free throw shooting team of all time last season. Sorry to cut you off there, but it really is the referees, in my opinion. It could be maybe a lack of aggressionness going to the rim too. Like, what do you think about that, Gabe?
No.
Or Evan, go ahead. Either one.
Take it, Gabe. I got something right after you, though.
I was just going to ask Geek if you had given Salty the list of questions before we hopped on, because he sounded like he had like something pre-written. I mean, it was perfect. It was poetic. I mean,
exactly.
What you really hit on the head, Salty, is that this is the way James Jones has put the team together. And I like it. It is a winning team. It's very reminiscent of the way the Warriors were trying to build their team. Right. With maybe perhaps our Steph being Chris Paul, our Clay being Book, which I think is an upgrade over Clay, and then just shooters around. And we've got a kind of a, so who goes at the rim? Like anyone in the chat tells me who other than downhill Book, when he's in downhill Book mode, who goes at the rim?
That's why
Deandre Ayton doesn't go at the rim.
Yeah, that's why I brought up the aggressionness. Maybe Abdel Nader sometimes, but I mean, if Abdel Nader is getting you to the free throw line,
you're right.
That's kind of my point, though. We should have more players attacking the rim, getting to the free throw line, but it's really been Abdel Nader and maybe Devin Booker because Chris Paul's the king of the mid range. You guys know what I mean.
Jay Dubber says Payne. You're not lying. You're not lying. Payne does attack the rim.
Exactly.
One of my favorite players the other night on our podcast, I said I would personally, is a good question for you, Geek. How do you feel about this? I would like Payne to have the opportunity, like a backup quarterback, to step into Chris Paul's role when Chris Paul leaves. I think he deserves a crack at it.
He deserves a crack at it. I don't think Cam Payne is like our future point guard because I thought we were going to address that in the draft. That's probably a topic for another day or later in the podcast. But
shut down.
Cam Payne, he can play. I've said this many times about Cam Payne. This guy is playing like if his job is on the line. And I don't mean that negatively. I mean, he seems like he is really passionate out there. He is just so good at attacking the rim. He can hit the three ball. He plays with passion. He loves it here in Phoenix. He loves Monty Williams. He's one of my favorite players on the team, but I get what you're saying. Maybe Chris Paul could mentor him for a few years. And then maybe once we're in that post Chris Paul, if that happens, I mean, we don't know how long Chris Paul is going to be with us, but maybe Cam Payne is that option. Maybe he'll be a better point guard in a couple of years from now, but I think he's playing great. By the way, you guys, we are joined with the Valley Podcast. Make sure to check them out. Link down below in the description. If you guys have questions in the chat, feel free to shoot us some questions because I have a bunch of notes here and questions of my own, but we like to hear from the fans. And by the way, you guys, if you see a really good question in the chat, go ahead and interrupt me.
Well, Iverson Vlogs here is saying, we could have had Tyrese Halliburton.
Yeah.
And my point is, I'd love to know what you think. I get that, and he is a baller. No taking that away from him. But did y'all see what Sticks did in the D-League? Don't you want to see that in a Suns jersey before you start getting all worried about Halliburton?
Exactly.
I have some comments on him. He's kind of in between. He's not like a true point guard. He's not a true shooting guard. And some people project him as more of a shooting guard, which we already have on lock with Booker. So if you look at his projections as a player, just kind of mid on, he'll be a pretty good, not superstar level or star even, just kind of just serviceable as a starter because he's killing it right now. No lie. But how would he have even got play time on this team? He would have been on the end of the bench, barely getting play time. So I think that we just need to kind of pump the brakes on that situation. We got to see Sticks play before we start saying, this or that, So
yeah, no, you said it perfectly. We have to see what Jalen Smith can do first. We didn't see much of it in the preseason. I know that he didn't look good in the preseason, but it's like, give this guy time. The Suns clearly have a plan for him. They drafted him for a reason. I think, unfortunately, and I understand it, I think Phoenix Suns fans just have the highest expectations in the world, and that's fine. But I think maybe social media has a big part to do with that. They see what Tyrese Halliburton is doing. You see what like Anthony Edwards and all these other rookies are doing. And they're like, why can't Jalen Smith be like that? And maybe we would be a lot better of a team if Jalen Smith was averaging like 15 and 10. But like, that's not really the case in my opinion. I really liked Tyrese Halliburton as a prospect. But you also can make maybe the argument, he plays for the Sacramento Kings. I mean, they're not the worst team in the league, but they're not the best team in the league either. So, of course, he's going to get minutes. So, I don't know. What do I know?
Nobody knows when it comes to rookies, especially in a COVID year. We've talked about it a few times on our pod. Every rookie gets a card this year, a flyer. Well, that's what it is this year. no G League until just now, no summer league, no real preseason. There's nothing. So let's cut him a break. The other rookies are doing good. They're playing good. I mean, when you get picked that high, that's what you're supposed to do as well. Of course, Halliburton was a little bit lower, but seeing it in the chat here, and Salty followed it up too. He does fit well on that team. You know, Halliburton could have gone to Milwaukee or New York or whoever else, and it might not have worked. And it just is what it is. We see it every year in the NFL draft, the MLB draft, every pro sport. Sometimes it works and sometimes it just doesn't. But we saw what he did, and he has the talent in the G League. And I'm really looking forward to Six coming back for next year. And I don't know if we could we really live with the rookie mistakes that he would be making right now when we're kind of striving for the playoffs? Could we put up with that if he was playing 10, 12, 14 minutes?
Exactly. And I think that's why Monty Williams really hasn't played him that much during the regular season. And I feel like, not really in a negative way, but he's kind of being critical of Jalen Smith, but that's what you got to do. You got to tell it how it is for a rookie. I know that our live stream is kind of jumping all over the place, but I did want to address the box score of this game, because like I said, this was a game full of runs. I'm going to say that 50 more times. Frank Kaminsky had 17 points tonight. He looked like he was on fire. He had 5 threes tonight. Deandre Ayton had 16.
6.
Yeah, 5 of 6 from 3 for Frank Kaminsky in only 16 minutes, by the way. I'm sure you guys know this, but the Suns are like 6 or 7-0 when they start Frank Kaminsky. So we might have to talk about that later once I'm done reading the box score. I want to ask you guys about Deandre Ayton's performance tonight. 35 minutes, 7 for 12 from the field, 16 boards, and 16 points. I think he had a couple of assists. Gabe, I'll start with you. What did you think of Deandre Ayton tonight?
Well, let me preface this by saying I love DeAndre Ayton. I have an open window on my phone that is ready for me to click purchase for DeAndre Ayton's jersey. Should he ever, I don't know. I don't know if I can do it, because I bought a Kelly Oubre jersey and I'm not willing to make that mistake again. But the point is, I can't judge him fairly because he was the number 1 pick. So I'll say this: tonight, it was good. It was okay. It was, for a number 1 pick, not good enough. But for a center who helped his team, he helped us get that win and he helped it turned around. So I can't be upset.
Especially in the fourth quarter. He played really well in the fourth quarter. But I agree with you. DeAndre Ayton can get 16 and 16 in his sleep. So, Salty, what did you think of DeAndre Ayton tonight?
I think he was kind of sleepwalking through the first half. He can kind of sleepwalk to points and stuff because he's just athletic, and he can get a rebound and put it back in the basket and stuff. So when you're looking at the stats purely, it doesn't really tell this whole story, but I think that he was good in the fourth, obviously. And I think his defense is kind of slacked the last couple games, if I want to be honest. When I see the 16 and 16, I'm like, yeah, that's a good B game for him. Exactly. But like I said, it doesn't tell the whole story. His plus minus is a plus 20. So I'm not going to say, I don't have anything negative to say about him, really. He's doing his thing,
Yeah. Gabe, what about you, man?
Oh, you mean Evan?
Right,
I got this one already.
No, you're good. Man, I would give DeAndre Ayton a C- in this game. Wow. If you watch the first 3 quarters, there were so many times where he just plain lost Zion.
Yeah.
And couldn't even, and Zion wasn't like he was going around the perimeter or nothing. He was going around small picks set by smaller players and from the elbow and going to the opposite elbow, a little bit in the paint, and then he'd get over into the short corner. And that's where Zion was working. And he would come off these little curls that if you just back up off the screen a little bit, you can go under it and clearly catch up with him. And he lost him over and over and over again. There was a lot of miscommunication. His hands are like stones today too. I don't know how he had the most quiet 15 plus rebound game I've ever seen. It felt, I was like, he had 16. Are you sure? Was that an accident?
Block score again.
Yeah, exactly. He had a couple lobs go his way. That one missed layup that he was right under. I mean, this is a guy that's supposed to be the number 1 pick. If we would have drafted him 12, 13, 14, I'm going to have a different conversation with you. But he's the number 1 pick. We need to hold him accountable to be that number 1 pick. And if he just wants to be a defense and rebounding guy, that's great. He can be maybe our version of Ben Wallace in 2 to 3 years when he gets a little more aggression. That's great. He can do that. He has Dennis Rodman tendencies when he's rebounding. He gets in the right position. He does great on that. But what are we talking about with DeAndre Ayton? Are we talking about a max player? Because if we're talking about a max player in the next year or two, he ain't that right now. He's just not. And we've said it over and over again. If he can come down on price, we can talk. But I also look at the body language of the team. There are so many times when DA gets scored on, and then he just trots back with his head down, and Chris Paul's looking at him like, bro, you got to throw in whatever. Mikael, you go get it. And that's happened multiple times. And you saw it with Frank Kaminsky when he pump faked the dude and drove it in. DeAndre's like, I'm right here. And they're just like, nah, I got this. There's small things like that you guys need to pay attention to. Now, the fourth quarter, he gets a B+, A-. I mean, the whole team did absolutely wonderful. But you got to watch the whole game, and we got to understand what are we talking about, because I don't know how many shots the Pelicans missed, but I bet you DeAndre got probably 6 to 8 to 10 rebounds just in that fourth quarter, because they just couldn't hit anything. But that's my rant on DeAndre Ayton, and we need to clarify where we're going with him. Is he a defensive rebound, low salary player? Or are we talking about we have to extend him?
I absolutely 100% agree. I think sometimes with DeAndre Ayton, it's like court awareness, court vision, because you were talking about Zion Williamson just beating him a lot. And it's interesting, though, because they put DeAndre Ayton on Zion tonight. And I remember in the Bucks game, DeAndre Ayton was guarding Giannis. It's like he has so much defensive potential. He's on pace to, I think, be the Phoenix Suns most points or most rebound leader, like 12.7. I think he might be our all-time leader in rebounds per game or something like that for one season, which is really awesome. But again, DeAndre Ayton should be able to do that in his sleep. I feel like we could have a whole live stream strictly just talking about DeAndre Ayton and how much potential this guy has. But again, and I guess really the whole team kind of played like DeAndre Ayton tonight in terms of the first through the third quarter, because in the fourth quarter, man, everything was clicking. The Pelicans had like 5 turnovers within 5 minutes, or I think it was 5 minutes. They couldn't hit a shot. The Suns obviously outscored them. I saw one stat from Matt Peterson on Twitter. Ayton had like 6 points, 3 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 block within 3 minutes. It's like those little sparks that Ayton has when he's engaged. And you were talking about it earlier. You said something like sometimes what I see from Ayton is he might do a good defensive play, but then he's just so slow getting back up the court. Salty, did I ask your thoughts about DeAndre Ayton?
I think so, right? The only thing I'm gonna say is there's either like you're like a DeAndre Ayton stan, or you're like kind of on the other side of the fence. I don't know. It's just he's a really polarizing figure on this, like for Suns fans. So lots of discussion here with his contract situation and everything else. Yeah, I think it will work itself out. But the only thing I'll say is you can't just pay players based off of potential, or like because you drafted them number 1. You got to pay a lot of players, and Bridges' contract's going to come up in the same year, so they're gonna have a lot of tough decisions coming up. So we'll see, man. And you leave that up to James Jones, and that's what his job is. So That's it.
No, well done. Go ahead.
Geek, let me cut to the chase here, okay? Because this is what we have followed this to its likeliest conclusion, to the full conclusion. And what we see is Michael Jordan and the Charlotte Hornets offering him a max, because look what they did with Gordon Hayward. They know they are a small market, but they have that chip that can be pushed into the table, which is, I'm Michael Jordan. Remember, the god of basketball? Right. I want you on my team. Here's all the money you could ever get paid. Exactly. And it's like, is he going to put us in that situation? Do you remember how much they paid Bismack Biyombo? I don't, but it was a lot, remember? Exactly. You think they won't throw a max at DA? Yeah. They will. Mm-hmm. Michael Jordan drafted Kwame Brown. He doesn't know anything about bigs.
Adam Morrison.
So that's the full conclusion we think is going to happen. Anyone in the chat, what happens, chat, if someone offers DA the max?
Exactly.
Do you let him walk for nothing?
Yeah. No, I 100% agree. And I think it was Roy in the chat earlier who said, does Mikhail Bridges get the max? What do you guys? I have this on my list of questions. I guess we're going to kind of transfer over from Deandre Ayton and Mikhail Bridges, but it kind of ties in together because they were both drafted together. What do you guys think about Mikhail Bridges as of late? I mean, he started off the season really good. He was averaging like 15 points. He was draining every single corner three that he could take. I guess we'll start with Gabe here. What are your thoughts on Mikhail Bridges? Like, does he deserve the max?
James Jones
gets paid for that, but like,
right. I don't think he deserves the max because he deserves the max of what a role player gets.
Right.
Like, I don't want to see any other role players making more money than him, but is he going to ever step into Booker's shoes when Booker goes out and go out there and get us 40 with his pull-ups and stuff? Not necessarily.
Like he is lately.
Also, he's not fully consistent yet.
Yeah,
so I think, and I think I can't speak for Evan, but I think I could speak for Salt. We should probably throw money at him now-ish before he gets any more amazing, because he ain't gonna get no cheaper than he is right now. And I don't want to be in a position where we have to give him the max because Michael Jordan would throw him the max.
Exactly.
I mean, you look what Jay Crowder signed for us and Dario Saric. I mean, they got 3 years, 9.2. Dario got 3 years, 9.2 as well.
Contract,
I mean, he kind of feels like that kind of player. I mean, I'd like to maybe do hopefully 4 years. I don't want a 3 year him at all. I'd like at least 4 or 5 out of him, but he's that kind of player, right? He's not more than that. He can't be right now. As Salt said, you can't do it off of potential, but we saw Timothy Mozgov a few years ago get an 80 mil contract over 4 or 5 years. So,
right. Yeah. The NBA is the most expensive league in the world. Salty, what do you think about this whole Mikhail Bridges contract extension? Does Ayton deserve it? Super Mario Hoops makes a good point. He's a content creator, an NBA content creator. So shout out to him. He says, Mikael isn't a max level player, but he's a perfect fit for the future, in my opinion. I 100% agree.
Facts. Yeah, I love Mikael. I love his game. His defense has kind of been slacking in the last couple of games, but his player potential, I think, has been overblown by the Suns fans. I think it's just a typical thing. I'm a born and raised Arizonan. I've been here since the beginning, since I was a baby in diapers, and usually, Twitter wasn't around back then, but Suns fans usually just like to jump the gun on stuff. So Mikael has some, Mikael has some good games, and he's looking better, a lot better on offense. And then immediately they're like, he's the next Kawhi. Give him some braids. He's Kawhi. You know what I'm saying? So that's the thing. It's like you look at Mikael and where he came from, and it's like where we drafted him, and then what he was coming out of college. He had that hitch in his shot, right? So last year, like when we drafted him, no one would have said that. Like, oh, he's like the next Kawhi. It's just like, yeah, he's really good at defense. And then he had to sit down with the coach about, minutes and stuff like that. So is he a really important piece on a championship team? Yes, he is. Is he a starter in this league? Yes, I think he is. But is he a max level player? No, he's not. Do I think he ever will be? No, I don't. Do I think he'll be an all-star at one point? I don't think so. And that's just my thoughts on him as a player. I think he's just very inconsistent on the offensive end. And I don't know if that's going to change necessarily. It could. I could be wrong specifically,
You know what I love about this live stream so far is, and it's kind of my fault as in terms of the host, is we've been jumping from topic to topic.
Very good player.
Feels really good because, the Suns are good this year. We're 18-10, and every single Suns game seems important this year, which is absolutely incredible. Even if we go on a small losing streak or we absolutely blow the lead like we did against the Brooklyn Nets. That's what I love so far about this season. I love Mikhail. I love Mikhail Bridges. I'm on that guy's bandwagon, and I am so guilty of, a player like, let's use Abdel Nader, for example. He had a small stretch where he was arguably one of our best players, and I made a video about him saying, oh, Abdel Nader is entering the rotation, and this guy deserves more minutes. That's what us Suns fans do. We have to do that. The last 10 years, on the exception of maybe, the bubble Suns and the 2013 Suns that won 48 games, we haven't had too much hope or, optimism. So when a player like Mikhail Bridges comes along, this guy is one of the best perimeter defenders in the league. He always guards the opposing team's best player. It's like we kind of have to have that optimism. But I feel like we could just talk about the Mikhail Bridges and Deandre Ayton thing for hours, because not only were they drafted in the same draft class, but they're both up for an extension. And, you guys have talked about it, like, do the Charlotte Hornets or somebody like that offer Deandre Ayton that kind of money? I think that Mikhail Bridges is untouchable for the Suns. But Ayton, there was that weird, news report that apparently the Suns had Ayton in trade rumors. James Jones kind of denied it, I guess you will. And the person that, leaked it was the weirdest source to say it. But it does make sense that they would possibly have Deandre Ayton in trade talks. But I think if Deandre Ayton if his season starts to collapse, maybe we trade him. I don't know. It's that whole
We want Cat. We want Cat. We want Cat.
It's hard. If he starts tanking, then he doesn't even have that much trade value too. So it's you're walking a really fine line here. But I really think the little things are what's going to be telling about this. He actually put out a video on Instagram. I don't know if you guys saw it. He said time to clock in as he was walking into the Smoothie King Center.
I didn't know
and
that.
I haven't seen Deandre Ayton do anything like that for
media,
a while.
Yeah.
So, which was mind-boggling how trashy he was in the first three quarters, considering he put that out. I thought once I saw that, I was like, dude's going for 20-20 right now, especially with Steven Adams out. But we've learned it doesn't matter who's out on the other team when we play them. But,
exactly.
But with Deandre Ayton, man, it's just you're walking a fine line with him. If he stays on this 15-15 type of pace, you're like, yeah, but he's getting 15-15. Yeah, but we're winning. Yeah, but all the time. But if he drops down to that 13-7 range, which he's had quite a few games doing, then what kind of trade value does a man like that have, right? Especially when he's coming up on a new contract. So it's tricky. It's scary to a point because you don't want to screw it up. But look at the little things and the body language with Chris Paul and him inbounding and things of that nature.
And he's an overlooked defender.
Real quick, I think one of the underlooked things is even his inconsistent season. I think he was top 15 in fan voting and All-Star for front court players, which is crazy to me. I don't know. It was weird to see his name up there. So I think fans still have a high viewpoint on Deandre Ayton outside the Phoenix Suns. So
does anybody know where Anthony Edwards wound up on the Western side, if he was in the top 15 or anything like that? I'm just looking like number one picks and having any sort of pattern, just being a number one pick in general.
I know that Anthony Edwards is obviously a rookie, but I think that guy can play, and he's been playing great as of late.
Hey, did you guys see his dunk tonight? He caught a body tonight against the Raptors. This was one of the best in-game dunks I've seen. Do you have capabilities to share? Anytime we see some NBA stuff, we go crazy on this. Do you have the capability to screen share?
Yeah, I do. Let me.
If you push it to him, I think if you push it to him, he can just add it.
I have to, because this was one of the best in-game dunks I've seen in a long time.
Send it to me over Twitter.
I don't know, man. My player had a really dope one on my career. I'll send it to you guys. I'll send it.
I'll tag you in it, but that dude is crazy good.
I wanted to ask you guys another question, and this kind of goes with Deandre Ayton here. Kind of two questions in one, and we'll pull up this highlight while I'm asking you guys the question. Are we sure this is a top 5 or top 10 defensive team? Now, I've criticized the Suns a lot in my videos. I know that statistically we might be a top 5, top 10 defensive team, but I wanted to ask you guys to kind of follow up with that question. Do you guys think the Suns' interior defense is bad, or do you think that's just the NBA? Because I feel like any player, it could be me, could just drive to the lane and score. Let's start with Salty. Go ahead and give your thoughts on, are the Suns a top 5, top 10 defensive team? And is the Suns' interior defense bad, or is that just the NBA?
Man, that's crazy questions. Fully loaded, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like outside of DeAndre Ayton, who's protecting the paint on the Suns? Frank Kaminsky is subpar. Who else that plays regularly is going to scare anybody from driving the paint in the NBA, you know? So when DeAndre's on the court, I think that generally it's pretty consistent, but outside of that, we struggle defending the 3-point line. There's lackadaisical plays. There's multiple times where we let teams go on a run. It's just from an outside perspective, when I hear about the Suns being a top defensive team, that kind of boggles my mind, actually, because like for what I'm seeing on the court and to the stats, it's kind of just a dichotomy. It's just it's a weird yin and yang situation for me, because I don't see the Suns and I automatically think top 5 defense. You know, I don't think.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought that like initially in the beginning of the season there was like that juice they had, right? It was like the beginning of the new season. They're buying into the system, and I could definitely tell like defensively they were turning it up a notch. But it's weird because we're coming from Phoenix Suns teams that traditionally never play defense, especially like Steve Nash teams or any of that. So if we see any kind of defense, we're like, whoa, what's going on here? This is the Suns, you know? Yeah.
And it's interesting because even though I like to criticize the Suns defense, it's like they do a good job of making sure leads don't get out of hand, and they always seem to be in games. Let's start, Evan. What do you think about my loaded question? Because I know it's 2 questions in one, but it kind of is the same question.
Well, I was looking at some stats here, and I really found it interesting that Suns are 4th in the league in points against, as far as fewest points against, which absolutely blew my mind. Yep. Yeah. Opponent field goal percentage, they're 12th, the 12th lowest, and then 3-point percentage, they are 8th lowest, and some of it has got to be just missing shots, because I remember specifically, I think it was Bledsoe had a wide open shot in the corner that Mikael and Jay were supposed to switch, and they got screwed up. And we see that so many times, and then Eric Bledsoe just missed the shot, or Josh Hart, whoever it was. But we've seen that so many times, and we've talked about it, how Book and CP just look at the 3-point shooter half the time. Some of it's got to be just,
Think about a poster. Oh my God.
Jeez.
I still think Archie Goodwin over Valanciunas was better, but that's just me. I'm
remember that.
Homer. I'm a Suns homer, so
that
was incredible. That was disgusting. So I'll answer your triple loaded question if I might. Okay, so are we a top 5 defense? I'm weird. I say yes, but only when Javon Carter gets minutes. Take Javon Carter completely out of the rotation like we do, and I think we slip back down to like a top 10 defense because Chris Paul, Mikael, and DA in the paint. It's like we have great defenders, but I think we slide up into that 5 spot or better when Javon Carter is in there, especially when he and Chris Paul and Mikael are in there together. It's like, please try to bring the ball up the court on us. And then the other part of your question with what was the second part of the loaded question?
What are your thoughts on like the Suns' interior defense? But really, like the NBA's, I don't know. I feel like anybody can get to the rim at any moment.
Yeah, the reason why is because DA is the only one. We don't have anyone but him helping down there. So Kaminsky was interesting to try to just say, "Hey Zion, we know you can jump over and through us. We'll at least be tall." That kind of worked.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you guys. And also, I mean, I love to make excuses for the Phoenix Suns. I mean, obviously, we had no summer league. We barely had any training camp, barely any preseason. So maybe this defense isn't clicking, but that's kind of what I like to – I mean, the entire NBA is victim to it too. All the other teams are dealing with the same problems that we are, but it's like once this team starts clicking on all cylinders, we saw it. I mean, the Suns won, like 8 out of 9 games. 6-game winning streak. There's nights where our defense looks great. I don't know if I've really seen our defense for like a full 48 minutes, which I'm really excited to see that. You know, one thing that I need to do a lot better of on this channel is talk about Chris Paul. 15 points tonight, 19 assists, looked like Steve Nash out there, 31 minutes, 6 for 11 from the field. What did you guys think of Chris Paul? One of you guys can start.
I'm just so happy that we didn't trade for a washed up Chris Paul. And I mean, I don't think I'm alone in thinking that when he went to the Rockets, he was going to be washed up. I remember being in a barbershop talking to people and being like, him and James Harden can't share the ball.
Yeah.
There's only one ball. And he proved me so wrong in that Warriors series where he looked like Steph shooting from so far away. And like the threes we saw tonight, the little sidestep, weird angle, deep three, he was doing that. And I was thinking, okay, I guess not. I really thought he was washed up going to OKC. So the fact that we're still able to get him and he doesn't seem washed up at all.
Exactly.
No rust.
And I think people forget how well he played with the OKC Thunder, but I get your point on why you would think he was washed up going to play with the Thunder. A lot of people thought that he was going to get traded or not want to play there. Obviously, we saw how that worked out because he led them to the playoffs. He was an all-star last year. Evan, what do you think about Chris Paul? And really tonight, I mean, 19 assists. He's done that, I think. I don't know if he's had 19 assists this season, but there's been games where his assists have been up there.
I mean, he's the leader of the team, right? He's the point guard. He's the
$41 million man.
He's the one that was supposed to get us into the playoffs. And when Book went out, he proved that. Now that they're starting to get the chemistry and things together, just little by little, he's just pushing all the right buttons. He's getting guys in the right place. I trust him with the ball. I trusted him with the ball tonight more than I did Book.
Right.
I mean, that's kind of a crazy thing to say. I mean, Book had the quietest 23 points all season.
Stole my words exactly.
So it's just an interesting how the whole season's turning around. And I firmly believe if Chris Paul had the ball in his hands at the end of the Nets game, instead of Book turning it over twice, we could have had a different outcome. I really think we would have scored on at least one of them. Definitely would have gotten shots off. Whether they went in, who knows, obviously.
Yeah.
But he's that dude. He is that dude.
Yeah, I mean, by the way, Devin Booker apparently only had like 2 shots late in that fourth quarter or something like that. But the Suns, I guess, didn't score the final like 2 minutes and 40 seconds, which that's on the Suns right there because Chris Paul did everything he could to help us try to win that Nets game. Salty, what have been your thoughts on Chris Paul all season and tonight?
So shout out to all the haters that said this was like the worst trade ever for Oubre. Gabe was one
of that, by the way, from certain people.
Gabe was an Oubre stan, so he was crying on that day. I know that. But as far as Chris Paul, I think we can already say that this is the biggest free agent it wasn't a free agent, so biggest trade, right? Biggest trade,
off-season acquisition.
Let's say trade, right?
Yeah, it felt like
biggest trade since Barkley, dude. Honestly, because people think it's easy to just. I don't know if people think this or not, but just look at all the crappy franchises in sports, right? That have this history of losing for a decade, not making the playoffs. And it's not easy to change that. Just look at the Kings, right? They probably won't make the playoffs this year. When's the last time the Kings made the playoffs? Or like the Clippers when they were really bad before they turned it around. So like, I don't think you could put a price tag on Chris Paul coming in here and potentially taking us to the playoffs after we haven't been there in 10 years and potentially just putting us on track to get back to where we were with Steve Nash and all that stuff. You can't put a price tag on that, honestly. Like without Chris Paul, I don't know. I think that we probably wouldn't have made the playoffs. Booker would have got toxic, probably forced his way out, and then we just would have stayed mediocre and garbage, right? And just stayed not a playoff team in bad shape. And I shout out to James Jones, man. Like you saw it. You saw it when nobody else saw this stuff, man. So.
No, I agree with you, man. I mean, James Jones and his Jeff Bauer and his entire management team, they deserve so much credit. Chris Paul, again, I got into arguments with certain friends about, why the Suns traded with Chris Paul and how this is going to be good. And he shows why he's a Hall of Famer. It's that simple. I could talk about the stats. I could talk about, the analysis of Chris Paul, but he is just showing this Suns team and all Suns fans out there why he's a Hall of Famer. He's been great closing games for us. He hits the big time shots. He's a second coach on the court. This guy does a lot of work for the NBA as well. I think he's the president of the National Basketball Players Association. This guy is just absolutely incredible. Go ahead.
I was going to say, we saw it when he just started with New Orleans and the Pelicans or the Hornets at the time. Yeah. Hornets just got off with Baron Davis and PJ Brown, Mashburn. They had a pretty good squad, but they didn't go anywhere. Chris Paul gets drafted. I remember watching games with Salty in his first year, and even Salty was like, "Man, I'd really like to get that guy on our team." I'm like, "Dude, we got Steve Nash. What the hell are you talking about?" He's like, "No, I want him." And that was when they were playing. That was the Katrina year when they were playing in OKC too. And so he saw it then. And after he said, I was like, maybe I got to watch a little bit more. So Salty called it out like 20 games into his rookie season. He needs him on the Suns. So, but we saw it with Monty in a little bit when he was there in New Orleans. And then when they got a new coach, they just escalated when Tyson Chandler came. They got into the second round of the playoffs.
David
goes
West
to the Clippers.
He was a good player.
David West, so was Peja, and he was a knockdown shooter. And then he goes to the Clippers. Now, who were the Clippers at this time? They just kind of got off of a little run. They had Chris Kaman, Elton Brand. This was right after Darius Miles and Q Rich. This was the playoff team that we took on. And then a few years later, they just go back to nothing. And then all of a sudden, he takes the Clippers to be a perennial Western Conference final team. Didn't even get to the Western Conference finals, but they were a threat every single year. Exactly. They were a hell of a team.
People forget how good those Lob City Clippers were just because they didn't really win many playoff series. They didn't get to the Western Conference finals, but they were good, man.
Wasn't his best accomplishment, considering the talent he had around, probably with OKC last year?
Yes.
They were weren't they like 7-15 or 7-16 or some stupid record, and then they just came out and blew up and got like the 6 or 7 seed. So
and they just lost Westbrook, who everyone thought was single-handedly carrying them.
Yeah,
with his triple-double games. But it's like, now you get a real. Sorry, go ahead.
No, and now he's going to take the Phoenix Suns, who haven't done anything in 10 years, to the playoffs.
Yeah.
What more can you ask of this man? He deserves a shot at a conference finals appearance, and he deserves a shot at a championship, hopefully with us.
Exactly. And I kind of mentioned that before. It's like the Suns are winning games again. They're exciting to watch, and Chris Paul is the reason for that. Now, I'm a big what if guy. I'm like, what would have happened if we would have kept Ricky Rubio and Kelly Oubre? That's another story for another time. But Chris Paul, again, is showing Phoenix Suns fans and showing people why Phoenix Suns basketball is exciting again. I remember seeing a stat too that I think the Thunder last preseason went like 0-8 or something like that, and they started off the season really well. We're kind of seeing that again with the Phoenix Suns. They went 0-4 in the preseason, and now we're 18-10. It's been incredible. Chris Paul has been incredible.
Fun.
Yeah.
Can I say one thing about Ricky Rubio? You got me thinking here, Suns Geek. So
good job.
let's play that, and you do it well. Let's play that what's if game real quick. So what would have happened if we would have kept Rubio? I think one positive thing that would have happened if we would have kept Rubio, depending on how you look at it, it would have been positive for Ayton.
Right.
You never saw Rubio dominate the mid-range and just make like 9 out of 10 middies in a row.
No.
I love that word, middies.
So that's a 2K word, okay? So
DeAndre Ayton used it too.
Did he?
That's a midi shot. Yeah, it's a midi.
So Rubio relied on Ayton because Rubio is not the scorer, not half the scorer that CP3 is. Mm-hmm. So he's like, let me help this guy get his. Let me get in the paint, but then still get it to him. The way they collapse on DA and double him every time, CP3 is like, fine, midi. Rubio couldn't do that. So he had to find other ways to run the offense.
Rubio would really just shoot when he was wide open.
So what do you say? Would you say that Chris Paul probably hits 4 or 5 mid-ranges more maybe 3 or 4 mid ranges more per game than Rubio. Now doesn't that correlate well with how many buckets less Ayton is scoring this year? Like 3 or 4 or 5 more buckets less
touches
this year,
even,
and touches. I think that's what it is. But I'll take it. I'll take a mediocre Ayton and have CP3 point guard if that's going to get us to the playoff and that's going to take us to the promised land.
Yeah, no, and I guess, again, I'm a big what if guy, especially when it comes to NBA history. I'm a really big what if guy. But it's like, how far would have this team gone? Ricky Rubio's a veteran, and I'm sure he does a great job in the locker room, but he's not like a Chris Paul veteran. I mean, I feel like from day one, Chris Paul was barking up a tree and getting on DeAndre Ayton and really taking over this team. He's like a second coach on the court. He's like a second coach off the court. Salty, I feel like we haven't heard from you in a while.
Yeah. Lots of thoughts going through my head right now. All right. First of all, what would have happened if we had those two on our team? We would be on the outside looking in, kind of where the Mavs are, on the outside looking in. Yeah. Like, what is Rubio doing on the Wolves? I haven't really looked it up. I haven't heard a peep. I haven't seen a replay
they haven't really had
of him
season because they've been injured. But I feel like I haven't heard much Rubio either.
So, and then Oubre, imagine if he had his shooting slump on the Suns in the beginning of the year, dude. Could you just imagine, from a perspective of Suns fans, if this dude was laying enough bricks to build a downtown skyscraper in downtown Phoenix, dude? This dude was on a historic pace for bricking shots, bro. Insane. And he's so like inconsistent, Oubre is, man. And the fact that if you keep him on the team, you have the contract situation laying over your head, then you have Bridges and you have Cam Johnson that you need to get play time, and that screws that up. So that might disrupt their development. I think it was the perfect time to get Oubre out of here. I don't play what ifs with these guys because I see what we are right now, and I know that Paul is one of the best players in the history of basketball, and we're blessed to have him on the team. Honestly, like, he's the point guard for a reason, and he just makes teams better. Look at the winning percentages of all the teams he's been on. When he was drafted with New Orleans, look at their winning percentage before and after. Look at Houston, look at Oklahoma City, and look at Phoenix. He makes teams better, just like Steve Nash did, and that he's a winner. Now, there's some point stuffers out there that are losers, and namely, I'm not going to bring Doncic's name up, but there's some players that can fill it up stat wise, and it doesn't translate into victories. But Chris Paul makes others better, just like Steve Nash, and it's awesome to have him here.
Well done, man. I totally agree. And one thing that I forgot to mention too is Chris Paul isn't stupid, man. If he didn't believe in this team, if he didn't see the potential of Devin Booker and the rest of the Suns, he wouldn't have come here. Chris Paul wanted to come play for the Phoenix Suns. When was the last time that ever happened? You know what I mean? That has to show that James Jones and the whole management team has done a great job. Obviously, Booker is an all-star player, and he believes in Devin Booker. I know that he loves DeAndre Ayton, and I know that he's trying his best with DeAndre Ayton. Chris Paul's a Hall of Famer. He was a Hall of Famer before he even got to the Thunder. You know what I mean? And he wanted to play for the Phoenix Suns. That goes to show that things are changing. And just real quick, while I'm going on my rant here, I think we should give Kelly Oubre a lot of credit for changing the culture of the Phoenix Suns here, because he obviously brought the Valley Boys here, but he was excited to play for the Suns each and every single night. He kind of brought the excitement back, but Chris Paul triples that excitement. And again, it's, Chris Paul's a Hall of Famer. I want to give a quick shout out to fellow NBA YouTuber, my good friend Romp 2.0, who says no playoffs if you didn't trade for Chris Paul. It's that simple. Romp 2.0 does great basketball work. He covers all of basketball, and he does a great job. And I totally agree.
I don't even think we win this game with Oubre and Rubio. I don't even think we compete against maybe even Boston, Milwaukee. You know what I mean? I mean, surely we would have gotten blown out by the Nets. I just don't think it's just a different level, man. NBA is all about the top tier talent and the top player on your team.
The writing was on the wall when Oubre chose to sit out with that knee injury that he technically could have played for. I'm not blaming him. I don't want him to risk an injury, but technically he could have played in the bubble. He didn't. We saw what Cam and Mikael can do without him, and that we could win 8 games in a row, something we hadn't done in probably over a decade. And so it was like, it was done. It was written in stone. Oubre was gone. I mean, think about it. Cam Johnson had a great night tonight. Mikael looked pretty good during flashes and has looked great all season. Oubre would be stunting their growth. As much as we love him, I love the push-ups. And you're right, Geek. He changed everything. He's the one that came in and started doing push-ups.
Exactly.
Like we were a laughing stock in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we were the team that Salt loves to bring this up, that Steve Kerr let one of the players coach. Like, who did he say? Oh, you go ahead, coach.
Yeah,
when they played this, that's who we were. Oubre comes in with his pretty boy ways and is doing the push-ups,
his swag,
and the dabbing,
confidence,
and just the energy, and everything changed. So I do always love Oubre for that. Mm-hmm. But someone was saying in here, Rubio getting rid of him for CP3 was just the price of greatness. Same thing tenfold with Oubre.
Exactly. It's like, again, Kelly Oubre did a lot for the Phoenix Suns, and he deserves a lot of credit, but it's Chris Paul we're talking about here. I have a few more questions. I don't know how long you guys want to go. This has been an incredible live stream. Once again, if you guys are joining us
we're good
for the first time, I am with the Valley Podcast. Gabe, Evan, and Salty are joining me from the Valley Podcast. Thank you guys for being here. I guess my next question is, you know, we talked about it earlier. Devin Booker had like the quietest 23 points I've ever seen in my life. Let's start with you, Evan. I kind of had 2 questions in one here. Is Devin Booker starting to get those, quote, all-star calls? I know that the referees hate us and we get no calls, but, like, do you think Devin Booker's starting to get those calls? And what have you thought of Devin Booker this season? I mean,
I think he's not getting all the calls that he should, obviously. Right. I think tonight. Right. He has – we talked about this. There's, like – you know, your top 5 players in the league, and then there's, you know, the superstars, and then there's the all-stars, right?
And then there's Devin Booker.
And then there's everybody, the all-star snubs that are just like kind of good, that we don't know what they are. And Devin Booker's an all-star. He's an all-star player. He deserves to get the all-star calls. Now, I feel like they're starting to trickle in here and there. Like, you starting to see a couple here or there. I think some of it might have to do with some makeup calls that they're doing as well, too. Because you see some of the ones and you're like, you're going to call that? Right. Like, look at the one
Even
tonight.
Booker's going to say that.
Right. Look at the one Brandon Ingram tonight where they challenged it in the first quarter. He clearly made contact with him in the shoulder going up for a layup. How is that not a foul? In anybody's NBA or basketball league, in rec league, you're up in the air, you get hit, you move when you get hit, it's a foul. He didn't get that. They go on to the other side of the court. This was actually in the third quarter before we got his technical. He goes and he makes a little move and he kind of gets tapped and shoots and misses, but they call that one. It's like, you're going to call that, but not when he's in midair getting it. And then he gets the tee from the referee, which was a bogus call. It was, I mean, he was jawing at the ref, so he's probably asking for it a little bit, but he's not quite getting those all the way. And I think it just is a Phoenix thing. It's some sort of Godfather complex that the NBA has against Phoenix. And I think it goes back to Jerry Colangelo and David Stern, but we don't need to get into that right now.
That's a whole nother
but overall,
that's
a whole nother one. Overall, our main complaint with Devin Booker is that he's just not consistent enough, and that he goes through spurts where he completely disappears in games. Other side of that, when he is hot, Monty takes him out, man, and then he just can't get going again. So it's a twofold thing, but you see it with Langston Galloway. He doesn't do anything until the third quarter. He comes in, his first shot is a 3, and the first time down the court, and he makes it. Like, if you're going to be the superstar, not an all-star, if you're going to be a superstar, you can't have stretches like that. You just got to go and get buckets 24/7. It doesn't matter when you come in or when you're out, foul trouble, time of game, you know, and that's the difference. So just consistency. So overall, though, I mean, you can't complain. He has the game winner versus the Mavericks too. That was a big win.
Exactly.
He had 23 points in a quiet night. So take that for what you will. That's just my 2 cents.
I mean, we obviously know he's an all-star, but it does kind of seem like sometimes there's games where he goes for like 15 in the first or has 20 by halftime, but then he just cools down after that. Gabe, do you have any thoughts on
real quick? Iverson Vlogs had a good point. Booker has anger issues. I'm not trying to make fun of people who actually do have them, but Booker does get those vibes. He does kind of get those vibes, but he's kind of
he's mad. He'll never call anything.
Yeah. Damn straight he does, but then he goes back and he does do childish things on defense, and he's got to get out of that mind frame. But Monty does a good job of subbing him out in the first 2 possessions after.
He does,
but that gets Book mad, and me and Gabe coined a term: when we get downhill Book is when he's mad. We didn't see it tonight, which I honestly expected them to come out in the fourth quarter and crush it, but the subs were just doing what they were supposed to do. He really didn't get that opportunity.
Right.
But he does have those anger issues, and it does stem from that. But he does turn into downhill Book when he gets mad. And that's the Booker we love to see.
Exactly. No, I totally agree. Gabe, what do you think about Booker this year?
I think he's on the verge. So I think he's on the verge of, I definitely think he's an all-star now. I think he's whether they vote him in as an all-star or not, everyone and their mama know he's an all-star. Okay, no one's questioning that.
Exactly.
But now I think he's now, once he gets that, you know how he's inconsistent, right? I mean, it's like some games they just, where is he? Once that's gone,
this year for that,
us too, and rightfully so. But once that's gone, I think he's going to take that next step into superstar, which is right past all-star, which is where, what would you say, that's where Nash was? I mean, God tier. I mean, he's on the verge. He just has to get that out of the way. And then the other half of the question was,
I guess, is Booker getting those all-star calls? But it's like,
okay,
the whole Suns don't get any calls. So
I used to think he got calls because he's very talented at drawing them. He goes up into you.
And that's what I mean by all-star calls. Yeah,
he knows what he's doing. I used to think he got calls. And then I watched Luka.
Exactly. That's why I bring up this question.
And then I watched the Greek Freak, and I'm like, Luka doesn't get any calls. The Greek Freak has a whistle in his jersey, and he calls his own. Like, so no, I don't think Book gets the calls that he deserves in comparison to other stars.
Because in this league, you literally cannot breathe on a person pre-COVID or post-COVID. You can't breathe on a person without it being a foul. Salty, what about you, man? What are your thoughts on Booker, and is he starting to get these all-star calls, as I put it?
Is he getting all-star calls? No. I mean, the NBA is a star-driven league. It's been that way since Michael Jordan, and he's not in that tier for whatever reason. It's the style of his play. If he's not throwing his arms and bodies and flailing into people like Doncic and Harden does, or maybe he needs to gain a little bit of weight like them. I'm just joking on that one. But honestly, with him, with this all-star conversation, like, it's just nonsense to the fact that he's not considered just perennial all-star at this point based on the numbers he throws up and consistently. The narrative before was, hey, Book's on a losing team, so if he drops 70 empty stats, blah blah blah, right? But then we're looking out on the forefront and the horizon and the Twitter landscape, and guess what the narrative is now? That Doncic is starting and blah blah blah. Let's focus on stats, not winning records. Like, wow, yeah, I mean the narrative is changing now, isn't it?
Moving the finish line.
Yeah, so he's an all-star. There's a reason why Kobe said be legendary to him. Kobe just wouldn't do that. Like, he wouldn't just come out and talk to you if he didn't believe in you. You know, rest in peace, Kobe. But I think this guy, he has it, man, and he could take it to the next level. So in my mind, he's perennial all-star right now. Now, if he takes it up to superstar level, that's up to him. You know, so that's it.
Shout out to Rom 2.0, who says, I think the next step for Booker is finding a way to impact the game when his shot isn't falling, which we've seen that a lot from the Phoenix Suns this year. I feel like the Suns would have a couple more wins if their three-point shot was a little more consistent, but we have kind of seen that from Booker. I kind of mentioned it earlier. There's some games where he has like 17 in the first quarter and then cools down a little bit, which maybe that's on Monty, who sometimes makes questionable rotations and substitutions and all that. Well, I was Booker's biggest critic earlier in the year with his damn turnovers. I don't know why it bothered me so much, but I was making videos after video and just saying, Booker needs to quit turning over the ball. He's so indecisive when he passes. He looks nervous out there. And I don't know why it bugged me so much. It's probably just because I know Booker has so much star potential. We all know he's an all-star, but we also know that he can be a superstar. And I've never really been a big fan of Point Booker. And earlier this year, Booker kind of proved my point. He was like leading the league in turnovers. Now he's obviously done a lot better as of late. I remember there were some games he was putting up like 8 turnovers, which is absolutely unacceptable. But then again, you know, I like to make excuses, and I'm like, this team hasn't clicked and they haven't gelled well together. And
it's hard. You can't do that because every game matters, especially this season for us. And this is, you can't say, but okay. Well,
I'm a victim of that. I'm guilty.
Yeah. At what point are we going to stop doing that? You know what I mean? At one point, is that not an excuse? And we're 50 games into the season and we're barely 500, right? You can't do that at all. You have to perform when the opportunity is out there, especially when he's doing 8 turnovers against Detroit, against Washington. You know what I mean? I was the same way with him. And my whole argument at the beginning of the season is, what are you going to do to impact the game outside of scoring? He still doesn't do that. Every once in a while, you see him wanting to square up and D somebody. You saw it tonight when he was guarding Zion randomly one time. You saw it against Harden once last game, and he made him turn it over, actually. You don't see it consistently. You don't see him coming in to take a charge consistently. He's not doing the little things and it's still driving me insane. And the reason you're feeling that way, Suns Geek, is because everybody is anointing him on Suns Twitter. Right. He's the next Kobe. He's the next this. He's the next that. He's supposed to be that player. And then people say, but he's 24 years old. Okay, Kobe was scoring 38 points a game in the finals when he was 24. You can't use age and excuse. This is his 6th year in the league. Regardless of who's on your team, he's in the same system with the same coach for the first time, I think, in his whole career for a second full season. So that's also new to him. And I get that, but you have to go out and execute at the end of the day. And we want him to be that player. All 4 of us, Suns Nation, we want him to be that MVP player, that T-Mac type of player, right? But he has to do a lot of the little things. And unfortunately, he hasn't done that yet. But regardless of all of this, you guys, what's going to come down to Devin Booker's legacy, and you guys will all agree when I say this, is what is he going to do in the playoffs?
Exactly.
Look at Jamal Murray. And now going into this season, Jamal Murray was not thought of like he was now because of what he did in the playoffs. If Book goes out and drops 48 a game, he's going to be in MVP discussions at the beginning of the season, right? And that's what's going to matter.
And even though the bubble wasn't like the playoffs, it kind of felt like the playoffs, and we saw what Booker can do in a playoff environment. So anybody else got thoughts on that? Because
no, it's well said.
Yeah, well done. That's all I got. Salty. Again, I feel like we haven't heard from you in a while.
I'm just like looking at my stats on my phone and I'm in awe of Chris Paul. I'm just going to tell you that. Exactly. I feel like we as a fan base just do not give him enough credit. I feel like even looking back or thinking back to all of our podcasts that we've had on the Valley podcast, it's just we don't talk about Chris Paul enough because he does his job. You know what I'm saying? Like he's just killing it, man. And I'm looking at these highlights from him, and he's getting like slams, talking about 19 dimes and stuff. And like, man, I was like, dude, I need to change my avatar to Chris Paul, and I need to start giving Chris Paul props, because like what he's doing right now is it's like the same level as Steve Nash, just like on his MVP level team, but he's not going to be MVP obviously, but just raising everybody's game up. Because Chris Paul literally said, he was talking about the win tonight, and he's like, yeah, maybe this washes the taste of that garbage loss of the Nets, like winning's number one to him. He's like this competitor, and like he's going to be an incredible coach when he's done with basketball. And the fact that he's doing that, you're like, he's a player coach right now, it's incredible, man. He needs more props, baby.
Yep,
give him the props.
I got a question for you, Salt, since you said that, and I just saw your post on Twitter and those dimes he was doing. Like that's those angles are incredible. It's different when you see it, looking down from a fan's perspective. When you see it on the court, those are incredible. So absolutely right. We really need to talk about Chris Paul. And 2, Salty, I want your answer first, and then we can go around the horn. Is Chris Paul the Suns MVP thus far?
Oh, you don't even have to think twice, bro. I don't even have to, like, you said that question and it wasn't even like 0.001.
Exactly.
My brain didn't even have to think about it. Like, he is the MVP. And what's crazier is he's old, right? And people are saying he's washed or this and that. Like, this is his team, even though Book was here for forever. This is his team. In the clutch, you give it to Chris Paul. I don't even have to think at all about it.
I'll do you one better, Evan. And this is a legitimate question. Is Chris Paul the NBA MVP?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Didn't it used to matter when you would take a team that doesn't go anywhere and all of a sudden they're the talk of the... Exactly. What is a most valuable player? A person who can come in and turn a team's fortunes around. He might have been MVP last year with OKC. Who's to say he's not?
You have to play for the Lakers for that award, okay? Or your name has to be LeBron.
You're right.
Sorry.
You're right.
I think you're completely right, dude. I think he is the MVP because the MVP is the most valuable player. So if you take that person off of that team, where is that team? Right? That to me is why I always thought. I remember talking to Salty about the Nash versus Kobe, the Nash's second one. You take Nash off versus taking Kobe off. I still felt like the Lakers were a better team than the Suns were, believe it or not. But with Nash on the team, he made everything go, period. So you take Chris Paul off of this team, we're a dumpster fire. Booker's going to want to go. DA's going to average 10 and 10.
Not be engaged every night.
What do you think, man? Is he the Suns MVP? Is he the league MVP?
Both.
Thank you.
I will say
that's why he's the GOAT.
As much trash as I talk about Luka said something I really liked. He's like, I feel like I don't belong in the MVP conversation. And I'm like, hate him or love him. That was one of the most maturest statements I've ever heard in my life.
Very self-aware.
So very self-aware. Exactly. And it's like, maybe they should just give out multiple MVP awards because Chris Paul has to be one. And I love that question because it's like, it used to just be Booker. Booker was always our best player. He was our MVP, if you will. Now it's Chris Paul. Maybe if Booker would have been a little more consistent at the start of the season, not turning the ball over so much, maybe we'd be having a different conversation, but it's Chris Paul.
Facts. Thank you, bro.
Charles is not feeling it. Charles says that this is absurd.
Someone made a point. Sorry to cut you off. Someone made a point. It's like we don't really need to rely on Booker to win games anymore, which I guess is kind of true. Yeah, it's weird.
But it's very nice to be able to rely on him when it's a big shot needed.
Yeah,
like he's been a good
closer. Yeah, he's been a good closer this year. I wanted to go to a question that I think it was Iverson Vlogs mentioned. I have a question. Where in the world are the purple jerseys? Off topic.
Man,
I thought that earlier this
year. They can't make their mind up with jerseys. I mean, look at this Black Phoenix one I got back here. This was a great jersey.
Yeah, it is.
I think I like the Valley ones better. Mm-hmm. Those purple Low Suns ones were good. I think the NBA is just in money grab mode, and that's what it is. Every year they want a new jersey, and they're like, oh, those are done. Oh, you bought that jersey? That's cool, but those are old now. Got to get this jersey. Come to the NBA shop. It's like, okay, we will, and we do. Because they're dope.
It's weird, too, because I remember we had the Valley Court out one night, but I think we wore like our white jerseys.
Yeah.
Where are the purple jerseys?
So you want me to tell you the truth about it? I think Robert Sarver hates purple, and I think it stems from the fact that the arena used to be called the Purple Palace, and that's associated with like the old Suns and the old guard. But I don't know if it's that or not, but I think purple is kind of a hard color to sell on jerseys in general. But it's weird, man, because coming from being a lifelong Suns fan, I think purple is the mainstay for this team, and to not see it is just weird, right? Purple Palace, this and that, and then you just don't see it. It's almost like it's just not a thing anymore, so it's weird.
I do think they're our worst jersey with these new ones that are out. I think it's our worst one for
which one?
Whatever that's worth. The Phoenix
Valley.
purple currently. Not I love the Valley one. I love
where it says Phoenix all the way across.
Yeah, where it just says Phoenix. So like the
of ours probably that's
yeah.
I don't really like the orange one with just the logo in the middle and the number. I think that looks weird. I would prefer EHX on there for sure.
I've always said about that orange jersey, and don't get me wrong, like I do like it, but I feel like it's more of like a t-shirt. You know what I mean?
It should have sleeves.
Yeah,
remember
exactly.
that looks. It looks like this because during that Christmas when they did those sleeves, and then that whole season with sleeves. That's the way the logos were. The Cavs had a little C. Exactly. The Heat had their little logo. Like that's what it was, and they look like pajamas.
It looks like a practice jersey or a D-League jersey. Yeah. This orange one.
We saw it a few years ago, you guys. I think it was 2015 or 16. We had Alex Len on the team then when the primary court started going black. Little things started shifting. Salty's right. They wanted to go more orange and black.
Black and orange.
I do love orange though. I want to get that on the record. That's very important.
No, orange is cool.
I'm down. Like, I miss those orange jerseys. Like, I think the best one is what this one is mocking. I think it's pretty much the best Suns jersey. And then the purple version of this. Oh, Frank Kaminsky. I'm hot in here, guys. Like, that was the jersey too. If there's ever a purple we need to bring back, it's that one. We will all buy them out instantly. Do they not know that?
Mm-hmm.
No, it goes back to the Diamondbacks and getting rid of the purple. The Coyotes are now all of a sudden going back and doing all the old stuff. It's like how dumb do you guys have to be? Don't mess with something that works. Be the Yankees. There ain't nothing wrong with that.
I will say, I think the Suns' 75th anniversary is coming up soon, so maybe they'll listen to the fans and bring back all this stuff that we love. You know what I mean? Because they probably should have done it by now, but I think maybe their 75th anniversary will be the perfect time. But it is weird. We haven't seen the purple jerseys all year, in my opinion. I don't know.
But our record's really good with the Valley jerseys for what it's worth.
They are.
7-2 or something.
And we're 7-0 with Frank Kaminsky.
Yeah, exactly.
Man. That was a question I wanted to ask you, Geek. Do you think that this was a gimmick? It's like, well, we didn't play Frank at all the other night, and that bit us in the ass. Let's oversteer and start him. Plus, well, we'll freak Ayton out. Ayton will be like, what? Kaminsky? Was it that, or was it maybe something that is going to continue forward? Because he, like Crowder, only plays good when he starts, it seems like. Do you reward that?
Great question. I feel like Monty Williams does. I feel like Frank obviously isn't going to be starting for the rest of the season. I knew when we signed Jay Crowder, I was like, yeah, he'll probably start for now, but there's going to be a lot of flip-flopping at that power forward position. And by the way, together, Jay Crowder, Cam Johnson, Frank Kaminsky, they actually play very well together. Frank Kaminsky has great chemistry with Mikhail Bridges on and off the court. I don't know if this is a gimmick or a fluke. Frank Kaminsky starting for now. He should have probably started in that Brooklyn Nets game. Monty said I don't think he even played due to matchups, but it's like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's like Frank Kaminsky's been playing great. I know that he's only averaging 7 points or whatever, but it's the little things that Frank Kaminsky does. And he has really good chemistry with this team. He knows the offensive system. So I don't know if it's a gimmick.
Yeah. No, the thing is, I'm a big analytics guy, and if you are winning, just like you said, if it's not broke, do not fix it. And I fully believe, even though when we talked about this on the Valley podcast, if Frank Kaminsky would have started and had less minutes but started, right, and still played a good amount, because it was weird. It was so weird for me that our coach completely removed a starter out of the lineup and he'd even play the whole game. It's weird from a perspective of you're winning to completely removing a cog out of that wheel. I think if he would have just stayed with the way he was going, had Frank start and played him, we would have won that game, because it just kind of messes with momentum and flow and rotations and all that other stuff. I get it, matchups and small ball and all this other stuff.
Yeah,
I feel like we would have won that Nets game. And I feel like we the win streak would have been continuing, but I digress. What do I know? Because I was one of the biggest Frank Kaminsky haters on the planet Earth in the beginning of the year, So I don't. Go ahead.
Sorry to cut you off. Someone in the chat said, Jay Crowder has been inconsistent when he has started, but that was my whole point. I'm like, I knew right when the season started that he would be our starter, but it wouldn't be permanent. We saw Cam Johnson starting too. That obviously didn't really work out. And that was kind of his opportunity to shine. I know that he's only in his second year, but it's like, I guess it's good that we're kind of loaded at the power forward position. And this goes all the way back to Jalen Smith that we were talking about earlier. Jalen Smith, even if he was playing better, he wouldn't be starting on this team because he's got Jay Crowder in front of him, Frank Kaminsky, Cam Johnson. So
Dario Saric.
How did I forget to talk about Dario Saric?
Yeah, Dario is just like invisible, right? Five points today.
Hey, he played bad tonight, but in his first game back against the Sixers, he played great.
Yeah, he
knew
killed
exactly what to do with Joel Embiid.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's going to do that tomorrow too.
That's the
totally
good thing
forgot about Dario.
That's the good thing about this team and having a deep team and caring about winning more than personal stats. You could have a different player show up on different nights and win the game, right? You'd have one night Dario kills it, another night Frank kills it. You have campaign step up, and then you're winning ball games. And if you're playing unselfish basketball, it translates to wins, and no one cares, right? No one's being selfish. That's what winning basketball is, and that's what playoff basketball is.
No, I totally agree. This has been an incredible live stream. If we can keep going, if you guys want to keep going,
I got nothing better to do.
I mean, I feel like you guys have just done an incredible job of breaking down everything I've wanted to talk about. You guys have stolen the words right out of my mouth. You guys have carried this show, and I really, really appreciate it. Once again, we are live with the Valley Podcast. Gabe, Evan, and Salty. I mean, take over, guys. If there's something you want to talk about, go for it. I don't know.
I just want to give shout out to that fourth quarter again. Guys, we were down 10 and won by 20,
and it didn't look like we were gonna win.
That was crazy. This game was pissing me off.
Yeah, it was bad.
Everything was going wrong. They were hitting miracle shots, and then they showed up to what the Pelicans kind of really are, in my opinion. I mean, when is the next time Lonzo's going to go like 6 for 8? Did he go tonight? We shot the ball like crazy. Actually, how many threes did we take? 39 tonight. I mean, and
that's a lot.
Strictly with the length. That length was bothering the hell out of us.
56% from 3 tonight and 58% from the field. That's incredible.
Dude, that ain't happening again. If we play them again tomorrow, I don't even know. Yeah. I don't know if we could win that game if we don't shoot lights out like that, because their length was scary. And that's what I thought, kind of we were turning into, was length like that all around the court, especially with Oubre. We got so many deflections. But that defense letting up 12 points in the fourth quarter, just shout out to that team stepping up and nutting up, right?
Salty, did you have something you were going to say?
Yeah, I just want to point out that, have you guys noticed any of the Lakers scores? I don't know if you guys follow it or not, but usually they would go down. And you're like, oh, the Lakers are going to lose, right? Finally. And then you check the box score and they actually pull out a victory. It's good teams figure out a way to win. You know what I'm saying? Because I was watching just the same game as you guys, and I was tired. I was dragging. I told Gabe and Evan I wasn't sure if I was going to make it tonight because I was just dragging. I fell asleep almost watching the game because I felt like the Suns just weren't bringing it. But then what happens?
Bad.
Yeah, the energy was real bad.
Just like in Pulp Fiction, when he hits what's her face with that adrenaline needle right in the chest, your ass got woken up by CP3. Me too, bro. Me too.
Yeah. So, and then before you know it, dude, like I was doing other stuff around the house. You know, I had the phone with me, setting it up in the kitchen, doing stuff. And before I know it, we're up by like 14 or 11. I was like, what is going on? And it's just like, we turn it on, and that's a sign of a deep team. It's a sign of a good team. They could do it, and I fully, man, that Nets game, I feel like they would have won if things changed. We're not going to dwell on that, but it's a sign of a good team. Just like the Lakers, if you think they're down, they're going to lose, they pull out the victories instead of the L's. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely, well said. By the way, you guys are getting a lot of love in the chat. You guys deserve it because you guys do great work. One thing I like about you guys is not only are you guys consistent, but you guys kind of tell it how it is, unlike me. So
yeah, no, dude, that's why, honestly, like, we appreciate everybody in the Suns universe online because we're so small, right? Like, this is a small community. We don't really know many other people. We just started, but that's one thing. When we first started, Salty was like, "Hey, check out Suns Geek." Like, he didn't tell me check out anybody else. He was like, "Check out Suns Geek." He's like, he does good work. Like, he's
true, man.
Didn't you? You know what I'm saying? So no, we just appreciate it, man. We just started, and we just know that consistency is going to be the biggest thing for us, just trying to be there. And hey, but we are salty, man, and we are not going to. We try to stay away from circle jerk podcasting where everyone's just agreeing. Yeah. And Salty is usually the more upset one of us, so he helps keep us real even keel.
He's good when he has wine, man. When he has the happiest mood ever, I swear.
That's true. My boy Romp 2.0, man, he's an NBA content creator, but he's a huge Sixers fan. Him and I argue all the damn time. And that's why when I did that Sixers live stream, I had him on.
For sure.
So, you gotta have those. That's why I love having you guys on, because you guys have made my job easy by just taking over when you need to take over, asking the great questions, breaking everything down, great analysis. This has been an incredible show.
So I'm not sure where you guys want to go, but if we have anything else, nothing else to talk about, we could preview a game tomorrow as well too. But
that's why I love having you guys on. Let's preview
it. Any thoughts from you guys?
Yeah, I wanted to ask Suns Geek a question real quick. I would ask you guys, but I get to talk to you guys all the time. Frankly, I'm not interested in what you have to say tonight. Geek,
yes.
Do you have a special take on why the Suns always play down or up to the level of their competition?
Can I make an excuse? Can I make an excuse for them? I have to make an excuse there. I think it's honestly just because, I said it earlier, no summer league, barely any training camp, barely any preseason. This team it's really about consistency. We were just talking about consistency with our channels and our podcasts and everything. This team just isn't consistent. I said it earlier. If the Suns would hit more 3-point shots, we'd have a few more W's. I think this team just needs to learn how to be consistent. Another thing too is, with playing down to their competition, the Suns should be like the Orlando Magic game. That game was a complete snoozer. I was watching it because my TV's on the side of me right here, but I was on the computer. I was tweeting things, checking my phone because that game was a blowout. We knew we were going to win that game, but the Suns need to go into games like that and just dominate. That's what championship teams do. That's what elite playoff teams do. We haven't really seen that out of the Suns tonight and really this whole season. So if that answers your question in the slightest, the Suns just need to be more consistent, and they need to take care of business against poor teams and teams that aren't that good, like the Pelicans.
That's just a recurring theme on our show. We're always questioning. It's like Salty always goes into the game saying we're going to lose to kind of like reverse psychology the situation into getting us a win. I always say the same thing. It's going to be close. It doesn't matter if we're playing against Clippers and everyone's healthy, or if we're playing against Orlando and everyone's hurt. We're going to play like goats, or we're going to play like trash. Whatever that team's energy is, we're going to pick up and do those vibes. That's a great analysis, though.
No, that's a great question. And I hope I answered your question. Definitely. It's just been strange. And I don't want to use the pandemic as an excuse, because I feel like even if that wasn't happening, it's like, I don't know.
I did see an interesting stat today that the Nets are like 8-1 against top tier teams or top playoff teams, and there's something like 6-12 or 6-10 or something against everybody else.
Yeah.
So,
I've seen that stat a lot too.
Yeah. Good news is it's not just us. Bad news is, if we're striving to be a top 4 team, we got to pull those out.
Yeah.
My thoughts on it. Grizzlies are a tough matchup. I like Ja Morant a lot. I like Zion Williamson. Ja is just one of those players I wanted the Suns to draft, and we got screwed out of that pick. We're the second worst team, but we won't get into that. Grizzlies are a tough matchup for the Suns, but it is a revenge game, so I expect them to come out with a W, but I will say that they're going to lose just for karma's sake. The Grizzlies have won 2 of their last games, and they're making a move. They're 13-12 right now, moving up, trying to get that 8th spot, but Warriors at 16-14. So they're playing a lot better. I think when we played them less, they were missing some players too. So they're going to have a more complete squad this time, and they just got a W against the Pistons. So it's going to be a good game.
I'll just say this. I hope that we just come out with better energy and are consistent all 4 quarters, especially in the first 3 quarters tomorrow. Kind of like Romp says, like I think having so many young guys and a newer head coach plays down to your competition. I saw someone in the chat that said like a lot of teams are playing down to their competition this year, but tomorrow should be interesting. I mean, Jaren Jackson Jr. has been injured, but we know how we play against the Grizzlies. I feel like this is kind of becoming like the Suns and Grizzlies are kind of becoming rivals. And it's going to be I'm glad we're playing tomorrow. And go ahead.
Didn't Grayson Allen go off on us last time we played him randomly?
Why you got to bring that up? Everybody was having a good time.
Because I said last time we played.
Live stream's over, guys. Sorry.
I thought Dylan Brooks was going to go off last time like he always does against us for no apparent reason.
Because we tried to trade for him or a different Brooks.
Marshawn Brooks.
And he took that personal.
Valanciunas was out last game, right? COVID or something like that.
Yes,
I don't remember honestly.
I think he was, and he scored 17 points tonight. So that's going to be interesting, that matchup. Yeah.
Iverson, was that really the game that he missed that dunk that would have won it? Was that the Grizzlies?
Which
you
one?
guys remember that game? He says, Iverson says,
"Oh yeah, that was the game,
dunk,
bro.
That left-handed dunk that he just Sprite commercial.
That made me salty, bro.
You don't remember that? There was down the end of the game. We were winning. We were up by like 3.
Dude.
Oh my god! Yeah,
we got to revenge that game.
Yep. It's a revenge game, dude.
Book needs to do that, man.
Go ahead.
No, Book needs to just come out, man. That's it.
Speaking of Ja Morant, I was lucky enough to get courtside seats one time, and that was the same game when Ja Morant dunked on Aaron Baines.
No,
it was.
Well, you've never seen anything like that before in person, have you?
Not in person.
No one has.
In person, it is different, man. Different. And it just sucked the vibe out of the arena. It was absolutely insane.
How good were your seats?
I had a few drinks in me. I was sitting courtside. I was probably 3 or 4 rows. I don't know. I was down there. You know what I mean? It was incredible.
I don't know if you're used to that, but I've been to a game courtside. I didn't buy them. I got lucky. Someone gave me the tickets. When you see 7-footers all out there, dude, I'm 6'4". I'm 6'4". I'm not short.
I didn't know.
Dude, I felt
crazy.
like a shrimp, dude. So to see 7-footers and then to see one of them get dunked on defying gravity, man.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And it's weird because sometimes TV, it depends on the camera angles, but sometimes these guys look bigger than they do on TV. But in person, you are right. It is a different. Yeah, that was an incredible night. I mean, my friend and I, we just kind of lucked into those courtside seats, and we had a few that night. It was absolutely incredible. One of the best nights of my life, to be honest with you guys. Super Mario hoops. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Salty says Baines is washed. I mean, this is another topic.
What's going on with Aaron Baines this year?
Hey, wasn't Kaminsky washed? Didn't the Kings decide Kaminsky was washed?
Here we go.
Same thing. Kaminsky, it always comes back to Kaminsky. He is a system player. His system is the Suns. And I think we found that out about Baines last year.
Yeah.
He belongs in our system. I would genuinely rather have Baines come back instead of Oubre. If I could pick the two, I want Big Daddy Baines.
That's a statement, man.
Money doesn't match up. I mean, come on. We already have the 3 locked down. We were talking about how we have no interior defense outside of Ayton. That's our weakness. Ayton Baines is at least a mountain of a man who gave a damn in the paint. Sorry, Geek, you were going to read Super Mario's.
Yeah, I can read Super Mario's thing, but I actually had a question speaking about Aaron Baines. I lost the comment too because there's so many people in the comments. Thank you guys so much.
Oh, he said it was a jaw dropper. It was a great one-liner.
Yeah. Thank you for everyone who's in the chat. Thank you guys for everyone who's watching. But I had a question speaking about Aaron Baines. By the way, I think he would still be great if he was on this current Suns team.
Kaminsky proved it.
I mean, if I was trapped in an alley, I would want Aaron Baines right by my side. You know what I mean? If you run into an Aaron Baines screen, it's over. But I have a question for you guys. This honestly just comes randomly. Do you think we would be a better rebounding team if we still had Aaron Baines?
Yes.
You know what I mean by that? Because I don't know, Evan, if you read the stats earlier about the rebounding, but like I feel like we're kind of a middle of the pack rebounding team this year. And we were that last year. But this year, I feel like nobody gets rebounds besides Ayton.
Salty, take that over. I'm gonna look up the stats real quick, and I'll get back to you.
No, I mean it's one of our deficiencies, if you want to put it out there. You know, Aaron Baines brings that toughness, that interior toughness that we were talking about, that we lack. The dude is just a brick wall. Like you're talking about screens and just he took some shots last year. You remember that? Like he was getting rocked, and he still got up from those hits. Man, like the guy was taking some crazy hits. He's tough. He's big. He would get, he could get out there and get you some fouls.
Super
at least.
Mario, don't tell Steph Curry about the impact of Aaron Baines. I saw that. It's hurt.
True. I remember that, man. It's crazy. So yeah, I mean, that would definitely be someone to look out for if he's cut by the Raptors, because he's definitely not doing too good up there. Yeah, he's just not.
By the way, a burner account has been making me laugh.
Dude, that's what I've been laughing this whole time. When Evan was talking, I hope Evan didn't think I was like laughing at him. Dude, are you friends with a burner account? You guys got to be.
I don't know, but it's hilarious. He's been doing it all the chat, and I love it. That's why I love some of my fans that I have, because we have a small community here. It is great. I hope you guys build your own community. Everyone watching right now, go subscribe to the Valley Podcast on Burner.
Do you guys see the one where he's like the Valley quotation asking Suns Geek a question podcast?
It's funny because it's true and it cuts to the core of you, man.
I don't even know what to say. That's just hilarious. I love it.
Right? You were asking about rebounds, and you said you feel like we're a middle tier team.
We were last year.
14th in total rebounds.
Not bad.
Opponent rebounds. We actually give up the 12th least amount of rebounds in 43. So we're basically winning the rebound battle by 1. So take that for what you will. I feel like Deandre Ayton's rebounding has definitely improved.
Exactly.
And I thought he's gotten some pretty clutch rebounds. At the same time, the dude can't post up De'Aaron Fox. So,
I was going to mention that earlier when we were having our Ayton talk. Someone said like, Steven Adams was out of the game, but that didn't really matter. That's kind of a concern. You know what I mean? And I'm not trying to pick on Ayton. I'm a big believer in him. I eventually do want to buy his jersey one day, but that's kind of a concern when it's like, oh, the other team doesn't have their best center in the game, but that doesn't really matter for Ayton because he won't be posting them up. He won't be getting huge rebounds over them, or he won't be dunking on them. That's a personal gripe with me. It's kind of concerning.
I mean, Pedro right here, the question of the year. Can we trade for Cat?
Someone mentioned that earlier. A lot of people in the chat did.
It's just, we can all be honest. Like, look, Cat is soft. You've seen those like literal fingertip fouls where he's like, getting a finger laid on him. But he is, who was it? Evans said he's like a walking 30 and 12. He is, and Ayton does not score 30 points. He's like allergic to 30 points.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
he's not the defender that DA is, though.
I think someone in the chat had mentioned that too. They were like, when's the last time Ayton scored 30 points? Or I thought I saw something like that. I'll just say this. I still have a whole bunch of belief in DeAndre Ayton. I do truly believe that he was the right pick. But as each game goes by and as each season goes by, there's a lot of concerns. We know he hasn't really tapped into his full potential yet. Like I said, this guy could get 16 and 16 in his sleep. And you know what? I'm not trying to start another conversation here, but Shaq, of all people, said like 13 and 12 or whatever isn't good enough. And he's actually right for once. It's like DeAndre Ayton should be putting up more numbers, being more dominant, being more aggressive, coming into the game fully engaged and staying engaged for all 48 minutes. And I don't know if Cat is the answer. It's whenever I see that, I'm like, are the Timberwolves dumb enough to even do that? You know what I mean? Like,
you'd have to give up something extra.
Yeah,
it wouldn't just be straight up.
Exactly.
Dude,
it would be
salary 30 mil. Who are we giving up to match that, though? That's my problem.
It's true.
And someone in the chat, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I don't. You go ahead because I cut you off when you were going to the chat. Go to the chat.
Someone asked in the chat earlier, do we pursue Blake Griffin? Do we pursue Andre Drummond? Now, I kind of jokingly on Twitter had said, did the Phoenix Suns trade for him? I had done a poll. I used to love Blake Griffin back in the day. He's one of my favorite players of all time. I'll admit that. But
let's be honest. We're starting Frank Kaminsky.
Yeah.
So if we're going to sit here and say that our 4 is locked up, we don't need a 4. That's not completely genuinely honest, right? I mean, I'm happy with Frank Kaminsky while the wheels haven't fallen off. But it's like Salty was saying, once the wheels fall off, Salty's ready to throw him into the wood chipper.
But with Blake Griffin, he hasn't dunked in like a long time, dude. They put the stats out there, and it's crazy. It's almost mind-boggling. You would be like, nah, you're lying about that, but it's true. And he is a player known for his high-flying ability, and he just does not dunk it anymore. Plus, his salary is crazy. I don't see a Blake Griffin happening. And the Andre Drummond thing, that dude consistently puts up crazy stats, but always on losing teams, you know? So exactly. He's always on losing teams. So
my whole thing is, I honestly think the only player that may not be on the roster at the end of the year is Damian Jones.
Preach.
And I had so many high hopes for Damian Jones.
Hey, when he came in at the end of the game, I didn't bother writing this down because I didn't think we'd get to it. Because why would we talk Damian Jones? But real quick, when he came in and tried to score, I think it was like a little layup or something. I thought to myself, he makes Ayton look like a Hall of Famer. Like, this guy has no ability to score. He's just all ups. You know,
it's weird because he actually played really well with Trae Young. I mean, he was catching lobs, and super athletic. So, maybe the potential's there, but we have not seen it because this guy gets on the court and he barely has any impact offensively, barely has any impact defensively. And I guess I get why they got him, but it just has not worked out. It's like it may come to the point where they just might cut him. You know what I mean? And I feel like he's and that's my whole point, I guess, is what I'm saying is I don't think any trades are going to happen, unfortunately. This isn't like NBA 2K where we can click a button and a huge trade goes down. But then again, I'd never thought Chris Paul would be playing for the Phoenix Suns, so who knows?
It's true. It's true. You never know. I just think that they got that mojo going. They're very deep. Yeah. And the only way you make a trade is if it's a huge impact. And those are kind of few and far between in the NBA. But if that player comes available, then you make that push. But until then, it's just like for some role player, I don't think they need to change anything. I mean, we're pretty set in all positions. You could put Baines in there or something else, but Booker said we were like 15 deep the other night. He had that quote. So I truly believe we're deep, really deep. And
I'm sure Damian Jones is a great practice player, and I'm sure he's a great guy. I mean, he won 2 championships with the Warriors, but I could have done that. So I don't know. And then a burner account's got me laughing again. I'm sorry.
Of course.
Anything else? You guys got anything else? This has been an incredible live stream. We got to do this again more often.
For sure.
Real quick, just for some Aaron Baines, a little love in there. He had his career highs in points with us, averaging 11.5. He was averaging like 4, 5, and 6 every other year, and career high in rebounds.
So outlier.
And he had one of the most historic games ever right before the NBA shut down. It was like him and James Harden were like the only players with like 30-something points and 7 threes or something like that. I don't know.
He did that step back 3. You remember that?
He had a step back 3. Yeah, that purple and orange gave
that was crazy.
Bring back Aaron Baines to the Valley. That's who we should trade for, is Aaron Baines. Let's be real.
Honestly, why the hell not? I mean, they probably paid him a little bit, right? Didn't they gave him more than we wanted to. You know, we probably can't afford him.
Just let them cut him, and then we'll pick him up.
Exactly.
You could dream.
$7 million over 2 years, so $2 million less than what we paid Dario. But he's also 34.
Yeah.
But Chris Paul is what, 34?
35.
Yeah, you're talking
35
about
already.
A different breed, though.
You're right.
Chris Paul hates to lose more than he likes winning, and that's the type of dude you want. But I felt like Aaron Baines was like that. You know what I loved about Aaron Baines? When Kelly Oubre and all them, they would get in the mosh pit beforehand. They're going crazy.
Right.
Baines like,
I'm not trying to injure my own players.
Yeah,
it's true.
I had one quick quote because you brought up Shaq. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, this was before the Nets game where I don't know if you guys had a chance to watch the pregame. Shaq brought up something. He was giving DA love. You know, he was saying, I'm excited to watch DeAndre play, but I need him to be more consistent. He said, I need Ayton to be a real big man, not a pseudo big man.
Oh, damn.
And is that not like dead on? I mean, Shaq, true. I loved Shaq with the Suns. I'm partial to Shaq, but I think he's dead on here. Like, he's kind of a pseudo big man. He's a big man when he decides to be a big man. When he doesn't, he wants to be LaMarcus Aldridge and just stand out there. And lately, he doesn't even take those mid-range shots.
He doesn't do that anymore.
Not consistently, I think. I think he is shooting the three. It's just not going down consistently.
The midi he used to shoot.
Those little 15, I don't see him getting those attempts. I see Chris Paul has taken those attempts from him and said, let me show you how to hit the mid-range. And he is. So no one's complaining.
No, I totally agree.
It's the offense. They don't run through him. They try that experiment and they're like, nah, we're done with that. Let's go another route. Pick and roll up top is the way that they run our offense now. And they weren't doing that before. They're trying to do that post game. Ayton would back up and try to do that turnaround mid range or whatever. That was big last year. But this offense is predicated on pick and screen and roll up top. Chris Paul. DeAndre Ayton hits that, the pick, and then they predicate the offense off of that. So I think that's the main issue there. That's why he doesn't shoot those anymore. It's based off of him getting putbacks, alley-oops, hustle points. It's not back to the basket. I'm Shaq, because you're not, right? So he's a pseudo big man. That's like the best quote ever. I'm just going to call him the pseudo big man from now on.
Yes. Pseudo big man Ayton, but you remember his best quote when he called Chris Bosh the RuPaul of big men. After Shaq as a Sun dropped 44 against the Raptors, and he called him RuPaul. Oh,
he dogs on Gobert all the time, dude.
The thing you expect him to be harder on Ayton, but he's not.
The thing I'll say about Shaq is, I feel like lately he's kind of been trolling, or like maybe the media is feeding him to say all these outlandish things about these current NBA players. But when it comes to big men, I will listen to Shaq because he's arguably the most dominant big man of all time. And I'm talking Wilt Chamberlain, Kareem, et cetera, et cetera. But someone in the chat asks, where has Javon Carter been lately? I'll just say this. I know Javon Carter is probably killing it in practice. We all know what he can do instantly on defense right when he steps on the court. But where has Javon Carter been lately?
I want to answer. We came, Salty and me and Evan came to this understanding that he's a 2-guard in a 1-guard's body.
Ooh.
Yep.
And so when he's in, Monty doesn't feel like he can orchestrate the offense. But then someone was saying we haven't been talking about Etuan more. Props Etuan. See, Etuan came in and took his job from him because he's like, look, I'm a veteran. I know how to run an offense.
Facts.
And he's just been shoveling points to people through assists in a way that Javon just can't do. He's undersized, and he's a 2.
And he's not like the best playmaker either, you know.
Gabe, you know what I told you about undersized players, right? It's just I'm not a big fan, right? So
the first time we talked about that was Shannon Brown, because I was all about Shannon Brown,
and I was like, man, it's these players that are just tweeners and they don't fit a role. It's like the saying, right? You'd rather be outstanding at one thing than okay at a lot of things, right? So the thing is like with this guy, Javon Carter, he's really good at defense, but he doesn't fit that point guard role because he's not that good of a point guard. Go watch him run the point. It's not that good. And then a shooting guard, he's undersized and he's inconsistent with his shot. So he's not a good shooting guard. So where are you at? And Etuan Moore, what he delivers to the team is his ability to get to the rack. I think that's the most important thing, and that's why the coach is playing him over Javon, is this guy actually gets to the rim, which we sorely lack on this team. So it's a no-brainer for the coach, honestly. And I love Etuan, man. I talked a lot of shit about him too, and I love his game, man. Etuan gets to the rack. He's a wily veteran. So I guess Javon Carter is just going to keep the end of the bench for him and ride that pine, dude. I don't see him carving out a role unless there's an injury, honestly.
By the way, you guys got to change your name to the Valley The Truth Hurts podcast. Go subscribe right now.
Sorry, man. Gotta keep it real, man.
No, I agree. Oh, go ahead, Evan.
I would just want to say, isn't that kind of with Monty's weird lineups? Like, we're not saying Langston Galloway either anymore. We're not saying.
True.
What happened to Langston Galloway?
Exactly.
He's a one-trick pony. One-trick pony, dude. He plays crappy defense and he comes in and he's just a shooter. He doesn't do much else. And I think the coach has made it clear that he doesn't prefer that on his team, because if you're a one-trick pony, he's probably going to find someone that can do other things. It's like defenders and I know this is NFL, so bear with me, but there's some players that don't get a sniff of playing time because they don't play special teams. Evan, you know Eno Benjamin, you know why he doesn't play? It's because he doesn't play special teams, right? So the thing is, if you're a one-trick pony and the coach has other options, he's going to go with those other options. So that's it.
I will say that's probably good for our depth, though, because God forbid there's an injury. Javon Carter is going to be ready to go.
He's still there.
And here, I'll be real with you guys. I didn't really know too much about Etuan Moore before he came to the Phoenix Suns. I just knew that he was a veteran. But Zion Williamson said it perfectly. He was like, Etuan Moore's the kind of guy, he won't play for like 3, 4, 5 games. But right when you bring him in, he's ready to go. So maybe Javon Carter's learning that from him. Maybe the next time we actually see Javon Carter, he is ready to go.
Bro, that's what Eddie Johnson said about him as well, too. I mean, if Eddie Johnson and then Zion is saying it, I mean, it's obvious. And I shout out to Etuan Moore when he went into the lane and he had a little hook shot off the glass. I don't know if you guys saw that. I was like, how the hell did he make that? And then he made a 3. I think it was like 34-28. We're down 6, no momentum going our way in the first quarter, maybe start of the second. And he hits a rainbow 3 over a guy, just like keep us in it and keep us there. He's that consummate professional.
Exactly. I totally agree. Ron 2.0 says Suns Geek looks like he's about to fall over. Probably because this is one of the longest live streams I've ever done. And it's been great. You guys have been giving me energy. You're like
the bench players that aren't used to playing extra minutes, and then they get that extended role and they start huffing and puffing. Yep.
I remember during the off season, we did a live stream on Romp's channel, and we were live for like 3 hours, and I was just like dead. I was just exhausted. So I built up for these live streams a little bit.
That's what coffee's for.
Yes.
I'm too comfy.
Did anyone else hear fans screaming, "Shoot the ball, Devin"? And when Booker made a shot, they said, "You're hurting my heart." To what? I don't know.
No, I didn't hear that.
I didn't hear that either.
T.
I think that's it, guys. I don't know if there's anything else. I think we kind of exhausted all Suns talk, but it's funny though. We still have so much we could talk about, but you know,
we'll save it for the next one. You know, the team up.
Exactly. We definitely got to do this again. I appreciate all three of you coming on to my channel. You guys were incredible. Once again, if you are watching, go subscribe to the Valley Keeping It Real, The Truth Hurts podcast. You guys do. You guys are incredible at that.
Thanks,
you guys
man.
need to keep it up.
Oh,
So
man.
subscribe right now. Link down below in the description. Gabe, you got any final thoughts?
Nah, man, just thank you for having us on. It was a great win. I hope everybody had a great night and enjoyed this win, man.
Evan?
Yeah, thanks for having us on. It was an absolute blast to be on with the GOAT of Suns Nation. I saw a few things in the chat that I need to make clear real quick. Everyone's talking about
we're closeout statements.
Team, we're this, we're that, and I'm going to say what I say on the Valley podcast all the time. None of that matters. This game now does not matter. The Nets game does not matter. The only thing that matters is the next game. Go out and win tomorrow and take care of business. Don't look at the standings. Don't look at matchups. Don't look at the win streak. None of that crap, because the only thing that matters is tomorrow. It is my mission to get Phoenix Suns fans with that mind frame to stop talking about the playoffs when we're 28 games into the season.
Well done. Well said.
Win tomorrow.
Yeah, win tomorrow. Salty, final thoughts.
Thanks for having us on, man. Like I said, well, like they said, man, I feel like I've been watching you for a long time. I don't know how long you've been doing YouTube, but I remember you watching your stuff a long time ago. So it's cool to be on here. I have two Twitters, right? One's for my gaming, one's for my sports. Salty's Gaming is my actual YouTube for my gaming stuff. Do that full time, almost 14,000 subscribers. So I love doing these podcasts. I love doing these podcasts. Like sports, it's like sports is my passion and gaming's just a little bit above that, but I love talking both. So thanks for having us on, man.
Of course. Thank you guys so much for the love. Shout out to a burger making me laugh the whole live stream. Thank you guys for the kind words. I mean, I've been on YouTube technically 10 years, but I've been doing the Suns thing probably 5. I've been consistent with it probably 3 years now. You know, I was there during the 20-win seasons, just making video after video, talking myself into Dragan Bender being a good player. You know what I mean? That was me. I was the guy on YouTube saying Dragan Bender can be a great player and Marquise Chris can be a great player. But I appreciate your guys' love. You guys do great work over on your podcast. Shout out to everybody who was in the live stream tonight. This has been a complete success. God bless you guys. Stay safe out there. And as always, please subscribe for everything Phoenix Suns. If it has to deal with the Phoenix Suns, I'm going to make a video about it. Thank you guys so much for watching.
Go Suns.